Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited for this episode. This is something I've been anticipating for quite some time. I'm finally joined by my good friend who is a hypnotherapist and expert in meditation and other healing and nervous system regulation modalities to talk about the elusive subject of hypnosis. Most people are familiar with the term hypnosis. They might even think they know what it means. But how many people actually know how it operates, let alone how it is being used on us on a daily basis, typically in somewhat nefarious ways? So in today's episode, we're going to get into exactly that. How does hypnosis work, and how can it be used as a powerful tool for both positive influence or negative influence? So this is a powerhouse of an episode. I'm so excited to get into it. That's coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, welcome in everyone to yet another episode of the Wizard Factory podcast, where together we explore deeper knowledge of the universe through ourselves. This channel is all about giving you the spiritual tools and mindsets to live a more free and empowered life. So if that's your jam, join us, remember the tribe, subscribe down below, and hit that like button on your way in to help the channel grow and get seen by more people. Today is a very exciting episode. I'm joined by my good friend Kenneth Soares, who is a licensed hypnotherapist. He is a well-known figure in the field of meditation, personal development, and holistic wellness. Recognized for his work as a meditation teacher, a healer, a spiritual guide. Particularly acclaimed for his soothing voice and guided meditation sessions, which aim to promote relaxation, inner peace, and spiritual growth. Through his various platforms, including YouTube, meditation apps, and online courses, Kenneth shares a range of guided meditations, affirmations, and energy healing practices designed to help individuals manage stress, cultivate mindfulness, and enhance their overall well-being. He has amassed a significant following on social media and continues to inspire and empower people from around the world. So we're very excited to have him as a first-time guest here on the show to talk about a very powerful topic of hypnosis and how it can be used as a positive or a negative influence on yourself and others. So without further ado, welcome to the show, brother. Glad to have you.
Thank you, brother. I'm honored to be asked to join. So thanks. Looking forward to having a good conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenneth reached out to me, a couple of months ago, to ask some questions about more of the technical side of things, potentially getting into doing more presentations and this sort of thing. So we worked together in that way, and we kind of recognized, very like-minded approaches, basis in natural law and truth as the highest authority, essentially, and trying to help others on that journey. So because of his background and certain skill set, I thought this would make a really interesting and practical addition to the Wizard Factory podcast. So Kenneth, let's start off by just kind of getting into some of your background. Like, who are you, aside from what I've shared already, and how did you get into hypnosis and meditation?
All right, so who am I? Good question.
Yes, define yourself.
I would say I'm a regular guy. I'm here to create value, to show up, to live a life worth living, and as much aligned with freedom, love, and truth as possible. In that process, that's why that's the reason I probably came into the hypnotherapy part, hypnosis part. I've been in 2010. I was working a job as a what do you call it in Norwegian? I'm Norwegian, by the way, if people don't know. or half Brazilian and half Norwegian. Just to add that. So,
Mhm.
in Norway, we call it a process technician. So that means I was working at the dairy. When the raw milk comes into the factory, it has to be processed. It doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be. I mean, raw milk is better, but
State mandates.
yeah. So that was my job. And, I sat with computer screens. I had them, all around me. So I was overseeing the process. Good pay, but not satisfying, not soul satisfying. And I was, I had a couple of years that I started to wake up a little to things, slowly, but steadily. I met my wife. My wife is still my wife now from 2003. So we've been married for since 2010, and we've been together since 2003. So it's been a long time. But that meeting with her opened my heart to the point where I started to just getting interested in stuff. It could be, astrology. It could be how the mind works. I started to just tap it, law of attraction, that The Secret and all that stuff was kind of in the wind sometime. I don't remember when, but I remember just coming over, just looking at that book and just starting to, okay, so there's a power in imagination. I'm not promoting that book in any way, because it's just, it lacks so many things.
It has its limitations, but it's a good stepping stone, I think, for someone in that, stage.
Absolutely. So that book just woke me up to the whole thing of how powerful the imagination can be. I did try the, $1 million in the mailbox for a couple of weeks, but it didn't work. They say it in the book, you can visualize whatever amount of money you want, and it would just end up as a check, or in the, surprisingly, it would just show up in your life. So, but that didn't work, but I didn't lose my interest in the power of the mind. So I read a book also that mentioned some stuff about NLP. So it was kind of like some things here and there. And then in 2010, I decided, when I started work, okay, so the pay was good, but it was boring. And but I had a lot of free time. So I started to research, and I thought, how can you change your mind, or how can you start living a life more based on your own preferences, not just to survive on money, because that is a thing in this world. You have to have an amount of money to make things go around. So hypnosis or hypnotherapy started to come into my awareness. I don't know how it happened, but I just made a phone call to a course instructor. I saw that there was a course running in Oslo, which meant I had to travel for 8 hours with car. I signed up for the course. The first weekend, it was a certification course for becoming a hypnotherapist. I wasn't interested at all in becoming a hypnotherapist to work with people. I was interested in hypnotherapy to use it to control my mind, my emotions, to just be more conscious. But after the first weekend, I realized, and I said it out loud as well, to just stating out that this is something I will start working with. This is something I'm going to start working with this. And the reason why, I don't know why, but it was like when I sat there the first weekend, and the other course modules as well, it was like I was sitting there and just downloading information. It was more like remembering. So the whole they were talking about the subconscious mind, how it uses, how you can give it suggestions, how it opens up and why it becomes more receptive in situations. How do you do that? Just all of this. How can you? What kind of problems can you fix with hypnotherapy? and all of that, it was just like dots connecting. I was like, and I said it to my teacher as well, the course instructor. I said, it's like I'm just remembering this information. And I remember when I said that, I was like, what am I talking about? It was this other voice, man. We're not talking about remembering this information, but it was the best explanation describing how I experienced it. So yes,
Yeah, it sounds like you have some genetic memories activating there.
there has been probably I have been into several past lives also working within this field in different ways. So, but I can go on to that when we start talking about how to use hypnotherapy as a tool for healing, because you can access also past life, not only working with trauma, you can actually access past lives working on activating potential. So yeah, just sitting there and having all this information come to me was just it just cracked my mind open. My wife opened my heart, and the hypnotherapy opened up my mind, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from there I started working with clients 4 or 5 months after starting the course. I wasn't even finished. I was just really eager to start, and I felt ready to start. And I just started working, and mainly working with people on issues like, there was a lot of stop smoking and
Mm-hmm.
and losing weight and getting rid of cravings and anxiety, phobias, low self-esteem, stuff like that was typical things I worked with. But yeah, it developed. I went through the whole hypnotherapy thing, took me into past life, like regression therapy, ancestral therapy. How you can tap into ancestral lives and then heal trauma through the ancestral line, and then also into NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So yeah, it's just because hypnotherapy is a blend of hypnosis is a blend of, I would say, NLP and probably other techniques as well. Who knows how long this has been going on? Who knows? We call it hypnosis now, or hypnotherapy, but maybe this was called something else, and it was a part of something bigger in the past when we were more evolved, more conscious. I don't know.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, was kind of your knowledge of the history, or the timeline of how this hypnosis kind of developed. So it sounds like it's the name hypnosis is kind of a modern term to call something, but it's kind of more of a basket of different kind of mental techniques and things like that.
I think so. But I think we can say hypnosis really, I will go into the history. We can call it hypnosis as a specific way to access to I would say initiate the state where the subconscious is open, and then use words to influence on a deep level. So yeah, they started, just back to the history. Franz Mesmer was a guy from Germany. He was probably the first one, the modern hypnotherapist, or what do you call it, like modern hypnosis. He used it they call it mesmerism in that day.
Mm-hmm.
He mesmerized. He used words. James Braid, he did some. He was a surgeon and a philosopher. He used hypnotherapy to instead of anesthesia, doing surgery. That was in the also, I think, in the 18th century.
Mm.
Milton Erickson, he's probably the father of hypnotherapy. He used words. He just used conversational hypnosis, and that I'm going to go into that as well, because that's what I think both everything, media, politicians, they use it. I consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, but it is being used. So conversational hypnosis, you can have a conversation, and because people think that when you go into a hypnotic state that you're gone, that you're asleep, or you don't remember anything. But we're in that state all the time, several times a day. So
Yeah. Well,
And
so yeah, I think this would be a good place to kind of get your working definition of what hypnosis is at the very fundamental level that is true of any form that it might take. Like if you boil it down to just the core essence of what it is, kind of conceptually, and then we can get into how it works on the more technical side of things.
yeah, hypnosis is state of mind where the subconscious mind is open for suggestions, and it is open without critical thinking. So we are aware, we're conscious, but it's, when we're in that state, and I will go through what can trigger that state and how to also, one can influence the subconscious mind without needing to necessarily be in a state of hypnosis, but there are hypnotic tricks you can use, ways of using language and repetition and confusion, and there's a lot of ways you can get behind. So why I'm doing this, okay, so think the
You're
critical
hypnotizing
mind.
me right now. That's what you're doing. I know.
The critical analytical mind, so when you're in a hypnotic state, it relaxes, so the words can move around the analytical mind and into the subconscious. So it's a state of being. You get the words and you get the influence underneath the conscious mind and into the unconscious. And in the unconscious and the subconscious mind, that's where change happens. It happens much faster, at a faster rate, and it can be instantaneously as well. Some things can change really, really fast if done in the, if it is in the correct setting, the right timing, because there is something about, I cannot force anyone. I cannot force anyone to feel better. If someone come to me to work with me, I cannot force them to change, but I can certainly influence them when they are open and receptive to that change. So
Yeah, that's awesome, because that's very pretty much in line with what I would have thought. With my pretty limited knowledge of hypnosis, I've never really studied too much into it directly, but just kind of picked up some things by proxy. But yeah, it's essentially the bypassing of the conscious mind, the analytical, the logical, the higher brain, and penetrating right down into the subconscious. Or maybe you'll know this, you're dealing with the realm of Svartalfheim in the Norse mythology, referring to the dwarf home, because the dwarves represent the subconscious mind. Think about it. They live underground. They live in tunnels and mines and things, like deep down buried, but they're the forger of magical items and things like that. So it's like they are, because that's where you're actually creating from. The subconscious mind is kind of running the show from the underneath aspect. And so that's, if you want to create bigger change, you have to get down into that deeper level and get at the roots of things.
Absolutely. That's the automatic, that where all the automatic things are. So everything you've learned through the years, you don't have to think about walking. You know how to walk because you've learned it. So it's stored in the subconscious.
It's like at first,
these things,
when you're learning it, you have to think really hard about it, and it's like at the forefront of your mind, and you're trial and error and falling down a lot. But once you get the hang of it, then it can become an automatic function, just like driving or shifting gears on a car or something. It's like super difficult at first, but when you get it, then it just becomes kind of automatic process.
100%. And I'm talking about, we're in that state of hypnosis several times daily. So just to go into that, so to be specific about it, when you drive, let's say you drive a car, and you're just at the destination, and it's like, how the fuck did I come here? What happened? You've been in another realm, probably, and just thinking about something else, driving automatically. So it's the subconscious mind, the unconscious, automatic behavior. You're just doing it, so you're not thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When you read, when you listen to music, when you play the guitar, when you're into something, when you're reading a book, when you're watching the television, that's a time where your subconscious is open because you're focused on something, so you're relaxing more as well, so you're more laid back. And when you become relaxed, the subconscious is more open because the analytical, critical part of the mind that should ask questions and should be there and function as a guardian to actually stop, how to say that, to stop intrusive, disempowering things to come into the mind. Well, it doesn't stop. We're just sitting there receiving it. So and everyone is receiving it differently. It depends on the programming that we have from before, through our lives, but also generationally and past lives. And then there's a lot of factors, but that state of mind is something that we're all in all of the time. So we are all in state of hypnosis several times daily. It's not a state of being gone, being unaware, or it's a state of being unaware maybe, but it's not a state of sleeping. Even though hypnos is, I think it's a Greek god for sleep. So it's taken, in that. But there are other as well, you can think of in there. It's gnosis as well. It's probably something with that word. I'm not so into that, but so that state is just a natural state that we're in. So that's why when it comes to being programmed positively or negatively, there's no escape for anyone. It depends on some factors. We're probably going to talk about that, but we're all susceptible to being influenced, information going into the subconscious without us knowing about it.
Yeah, man, what's really fascinating about this and what's coming up for me here is I've spent a lot of time more recently in the past year focusing on mind control, doing presentations on this, speaking about it in interviews and things. And, the buzzword there is often this trauma-based mind control. And it's only recently starting to kind of materialize conceptually for me that it works in both realms. I did a recent interview on dissolving the divide that I just posted on my channel as well, where this kind of came up, but now it's like this pattern is emerging. To see, we were talking about and it was an observation that I had made where we're exposed to this global level of trauma through news and things like that. It's not just at the village level, the Mayberry-esque type of, gossip and just these little trivial things. We're talking about global, war and genocide and mass shootings and all these kind of things. And then, but there's a pendulum swing where people kind of go into the escapist route where it's like, that's so much, it's so overwhelming to the nervous system, then we need to unplug and kind of swing the pendulum into the rest and digest, the parasympathetic. And it seems like you're kind of susceptible on both ends of the range. So there's like the hyper traumatic, what's the word I'm trying to say, where your nervous system is on high alert, you're in survival, fight or flight mode, you're prone to be programmed from that state. But I think the other side doesn't get as much love. And I mean, I'm even, just realizing this in the process, that your rest and digest is just as much susceptible, and they play to this and they keep you swinging from that overstimulation of trauma and then escapism. And to try to just feel some good emotions, you flick on turn on the Netflix or eat some food or whatever to try to feel some positive emotions, and then you're being programmed from there as well.
Yeah, it's that's why I say there's no escape really. Or yeah, that's not completely true. There's no escape. You can reduce, reduce the influence by in several ways. But I agree with you. You have, because when you do the research into this stuff, especially, I don't know how far you went into the trauma-based mind control, but there's some horrible stuff when you start digging into that, and you have to take a rest from that. And of course,
Yeah.
in that rest, yeah, we're open all the time in a way. It's just a matter of being aware enough and being conscious of these things helps,
Yeah.
because being completely unconscious of it, and let's say you think I'm only going to focus on the positive now. Let's say that I'm only going to focus on the positive, and that's, we can do that as well, and we may have to do some of that for some time to to build ourselves up again after going into all of the crazy shit going on, and then it's because it's not just going on in the physical world. There's things going on that we're probably not aware of in the spiritual realms as well. It's almost like it's coming from all angles, especially in the mental realm, and it trickles out into the physical. So yeah, so we talk about trauma-based mind control. That is, as long as there is fear. The funny thing, not funny, but the interesting thing about the whole thing with being in fear is that most people are not even aware that they are in fear when they're making a decision. Let's say they have to make an important decision. They may not even be aware that they are making that decision out of the triggered fear, because the fear is, they're so used to it being there all the time that it's more of a natural state. You heard of the frog in the heat, boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, in the end, you may get so fried that you don't even know that you're just living out of a state of fear or a state of survival. So yeah, so all the decisions we make from there might not be the best decisions we make. Might make wrong decisions, and usually we will follow orders. We will do what the crowd does. We will just do what we think will make us survive. So I don't know if I digressed from what we were talking about there, but that's what came out.
Yeah, no, I love it. This is really interesting. It seems like there's first, on one level, trying to stay more balanced and grounded so that you don't go too far into the fight or flight or rest and digest, but then also being very mindful of what you're taking in when you allow yourself, because obviously we need, everything moves in cycles. This is part of natural law, and you need, to rest and recuperate your energy, but you also need to kind of be in a more stimulated state to be more active and things like that. That's natural. But just being more aware of not only what you're exposing yourself to in both of those states that could be manipulating or influencing you in some way, and then also being very aware, which is always a good thing, of yourself, your responses, just having that introspection and self-awareness.
If you there's a thing about, I think fear is instinctive emotion anyway. So I don't think we can escape fear. We all have something, but there's something about, having a tank. Let's say in the subconscious there's a tank. There are different emotions in those tanks. So there's the tank filled up with fear. Mm-hmm. If there's too much fear in that tank, you will unconsciously just react out of that fear. And that can be, because if, let's say you fear, an example, when the whole pandemic thing was going on, can we use words on YouTube? Or you have to?
Yeah, I think it's safe to talk about that now.
It is. Okay. Yeah. When they introduced the technology to poke through the skin, um, there were a lot of people that I heard directly from that decided to take it, and they said it was several reasons. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for others, which I don't quite believe is completely true, but it sounds good. And they can believe it on the surface. We believe maybe that's the thing. My intuition told me. And the intuition, when we talk about discernment and intuition, if we haven't cleared out a lot of the trauma stuff that we're carrying, and I'm talking about not trauma-based mind control, I'm talking about things that we experience through life, in the womb, through birth, the birthing experience, childhood, those things. If we fear criticism, if we fear getting kicked out of the tribe, if we fear abandonment, if we fear rejection and all those things, and it lies there as programs in the subconscious, and we have beliefs around, if just circling around those traumas, because traumas are connected to programming, connected to the belief system. Traumas are, some beliefs that we have are created through the traumas that we're experiencing. So what happens is that our intuition, our discernment, the gut feeling is muddled. It's not clear. So we think that we're taking, making our decisions out of the intuition. We listen within. But I had a feeling that wasn't so for many people. They used that as a way to not get into the situation where they had to maybe quit the job, where they had to, lose friends or lose contact with family, getting kicked out of the tribe. So I do think that when fear is triggered, which is a way the control system uses, manipulate us through fear. When the fear is triggered, we do make decisions, and we disguise our decisions maybe as, I made this decision myself, but in reality, it was a decision based on survival mode, which was based on fear coming from different traumas, which aren't happening now, here and now, but they are being triggered. So for the subconscious mind, everything is here and now. So it doesn't matter if those traumas are triggered in a situation, which it happens for a lot of people during the whole scamdemic thing, then of course we're going to make decisions out of our programming and out of the fear that we're holding on to. But we're not conscious of it. Some are, but many people are not conscious of the fact that we are in a hypnotic state where we have taken in all this information. And because all the information, it was overriding the whole system, it was overloading the system. So of course there was a lot of things going in, and seeds being sown in the garden of the subconscious. And then with the repetition in media, in schools, and watching people with things on their faces, and just everything, it reinforces the whole programming and the whole agenda in a way.
Yeah, it seems like it's much easier for people to even convince themselves that their motivations are, because I care about other people, especially my family or other people I may be putting at risk or something, than it is to admit that they're essentially too cowardly to stand in truth and to say no and risk even their own comfort in life and their livelihood and things like that for principle.
Absolutely. And I do think that I do think that most humans do care, but as you say, it sounds better to say that I care. I care about that person. I care.
Right.
So,
and
of course,
they might actually believe that, even though even though there's some truth to it. It's not the deeper reason, the bigger reason, and they might not even be willing to look at that for themselves. The ego wants to protect itself.
Absolutely. That was one thing that was really frustrating for me to see, I had to work on myself to accept that people are making their own choices, in not just in that whole thing, but just generally through life, sometimes I'm saying this humbly, being able to see the wider picture and things, the wider perspective
Mm.
in many things, especially when it comes to the psyche and how it works. And it's sometimes difficult to watch, loved ones and people I care about go about and make decisions that I would say is the wrong decision based on the perspective that I try to be objective, of course, but we always have our own subjective, opinions and
Yeah,
beliefs
biases,
yeah,
filters.
yeah. So it's for me, it's more like, okay, things are happening in the world. There will always be those that do not see it, they do not understand, they do not want to hear about it or see it, and there are those that feel within themselves through their intuition, their inner guidance, that something is not right here. Maybe I should listen within and not listen to the crowd. But then this is the trap. Then if we have invested too much trust in, for example, authority or people that we trust, that we look up to, or in some way, then we might also base our choices on what they're saying, what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
because we assume that they know better, or they are right because they're good people, or we trust them more. So there's so many traps to fall into when it comes to, living life with authenticity and integrity. We think we're doing it, and then we've fallen into a trap. I mean, that happens to all of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not easy, but
just juxtaposing that, what you're saying is where people have these figures, these influential people of whatever capacity, maybe politics or even celebrities and things like this. There's this tendency to put people up on a pedestal, but then juxtaposing that to the typical state of demoralization that people are in, where they believe that they are less than, they're just, they're not powerful, they're not smart, they just kind of go along to get along. And, it's like they're lowering their own self in their own mind and then putting other people up here, especially often the very worst kind of people that aren't those things and don't have their best interests in mind and are just basically exploiting and subjugating them.
yeah. So there's a lot of aspects here, and this whole, what we believe in all of this, it comes from, we talk about hypnosis, how is it used in our world. So it's more like media can use mind tricks, tricks to get to, like, repetition.
Mm-hmm.
When you repeat something over time, the guardian between the conscious and unconscious, it cannot hold everything.
It's like a battering ram. It just
it is. It's
weaker.
Repeated.
Yeah.
So at some point, maybe sometime, maybe when your energy level is low, maybe when you're not feeling so good one day, maybe you're detoxing something, you're sick for some reason, maybe you're just in a bad mood, you're hungry, in some time in it, suddenly it goes in because it's been repeated enough. And then you don't even need to be in a weak state. You can just be really open to everything that is being said on the news, for example, and you just believe everything, without asking any critical questions. Then it will also go in. You don't need that much repetition. But people that are not, some people are really susceptible from the get-go. They say that around 25% of people are extremely hypnotizable.
Susceptible, yeah.
Yes. So what I would say to that is that, okay, those 25% of people are really easy to convince, not because they're stupid or because they don't have intelligence, their wisdom. It's just that they're more open.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we can think there's different levels of being susceptible. So of course, when the whole thing they use, you can look into they use repetition, that's obvious. But what about confusion?
Mm-hmm.
Confusion is being used a lot, from, especially, listen to politicians talking. So confusion is a hypnotic trick to get people into a hypnotic state. I'm not saying that they use it intentionally to do so, but it seems like, I had a news article from a Norwegian paper. I just want to read it out just to get into the confusion part here.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we had these years with the whole Corona situations, I'm using that as an example. So this one is good.
It's a very relevant one.
Yeah. So I'm going to read it to you now. Hold on. The injection don't make you immune. You can still spread the virus and you can still get sick from it. But we recommend everyone to take the injections and the boosters so you keep yourself healthy and protect others. It's safe and effective. When I read that the first time, my mind was going, "What? What is this?" It's like words just spinning around, because they start with, "It doesn't make you immune, and you can still spread it, and you can still get sick. But we recommend you doing it because it's safe and effective. It will protect others." But they just said that it wasn't. They said that it won't make you immune. So this is the type of word. So when you sit in a confused state reading that, you're just reading, safe and effective. That's trigger words as well. So in hypnosis, that those words are triggering something. We like the word safe. It's safe,
right?
You're safe now, right? It's safe. And effective, there's something about effective as well. We like effectiveness. We like things to be effective. So when you combine safe and effective, that's the only thing that that's what you're sitting with. You're reading all of this or hearing all of that, and then you're confused. What did he say? It worked. It doesn't work. You should do it. You should not do it. It's safe and effective.
Yeah, and that's the last thing you hear. So you're probably going to put the most weight on those words. It's
you will also,
residual.
The computer makes your guardian between the subconscious and conscious. When it's confused, it's open.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting what that made me think of here is this is what people are looking to authorities for. They want safety, and they want to know that it's all in hand, it's being taken care of, right? That way, I don't have to worry about anything. They're keeping me safe, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing to run things, to make sure society doesn't fly off the hinges, right? So they're effective, they're competent. That's kind of what that's communicating with those two words. Like you said, those are very important kind of buzzwords that are evoking what people want to hear and what they want, what they expect from authority and from sort of the institutions of society.
Yeah. And isn't that a little bit when we were children, we expected our parents to keep us safe and run things effective.
Yeah.
So food on the table and everything worked out.
Exactly.
Funny how that is just, moved on to.
Well, that's definitely not a coincidence, because I think that's very intentional that the government kind of stands as a proxy to parental roles, implying and necessitating that you are in a state of mental and spiritual childhood, in incompetency, dependency. These are things they need from you. And so then, of course, they have to convince you that, well, you need them, when it's actually exactly the other way around.
It is. The other way around, definitely. So the thing is here, again, that we put our trust into these, institutions and the government and things, the doctor, the medicine in the medical industry. So when we put our trust there, then, it's the things we're talking about here. You have to be open to the idea that there are actually social engineers controlling things and not having our best interest in mind.
Absolutely.
For me, it's obvious. And for many years, Logan, I didn't want to look into that. When I started out with the hypnotherapy thing and working on myself, I didn't finish that. In 2010, when I started working with people, I worked mostly on myself. I still do. So I, Because when I found out that I could heal traumas and, reduce the power of limiting beliefs with the hold they had on me, it build up my self-worth to a base where it's just, I'm worthy, independently of what's going on around me in the world, of what other people believe, because I'm innately worthy. And of course, that reflects into how I create value in the world. But just all of that, coming into, sorry, I lost the point. I was going to track that back to what we were talking about. Sorry, man.
No worries. Let's see. We were talking about dependency. You were using it to heal yourself, to build yourself up.
Yeah. No, I just want completely. I probably hypnotized myself, confused myself. It's gone. Just with the working on yourself thing it's a main thing here. Yeah, that was it. I wasn't looking into the darker stuff.
Yeah,
if I can call it that, because I was more into let's say positive, empowering spirituality. But I need to go that route, as well, to get the experience in that. And I'm still all for empowerment. I mean, that's why we're here talking. That's why I do what I do. It's just that neglecting, for me, obvious, things going on in the world, because when people work on the spiritual aspect, becoming more spiritual, whatever that means, let's say the buzz spirituality or, the trendy spiritual stuff, you tend to go into the only think positive, if you think something negative, that will manifest in your life. So you can't think of negative, you just have to focus on positivity, which will not work, because there's no way you can only focus on positivity, because the trauma will catch onto you anyways. You can't force things, you can't force intense emotional cuts in the emotional and mental spiritual body. You can't just put a band-aid on that with positive thinking and expect that to just disappear. It will catch up though. So just doing that deeper dive, and when you do that for a while, you start noticing also other type of influential come to you, and I think it's inevitable to at some point when you're working on yourself, that you will meet with the hidden knowledge, the occulted knowledge, which is hidden from us for a reason. Even the things we're talking about now with the, being, how do you get people into a hypnotic state, and how is the social engineers using it to control? That is something that I think they want to have remain hidden. They want to keep it occulted, but it's so. I mean, there's so many people being curious now and being open to researching more about it and knowing more, and evolving more. So I think this is a natural part of evolution, to become more and more aware of all sides of this, the polarities in play.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just want to take a quick moment to offer you a special gift. It's the free initiation package download. This is a free download package that includes the Toolbox mini course. I created this package to equip you with all of the essential tools you need for any type of energetic or magical practice, for anyone serious about their spiritual development. It's comprised of 3 parts: the circle, the breath, and the voice, where you'll learn how to cast the circle of the Magi, various breathwork techniques, including a powerful guided breathwork meditation, rune galler, and more. You'll also get access to the Inner Sanctum, our private Facebook group and Discord server, as well as some Wizard Factory wallpapers for desktop and mobile, all for free. And for those who've already seen this course, I'm happy to announce that this is a brand new remake with better production and even more information. You can find the link to get yours in the description below. So check it out and let's get back to the content. Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to bring up here that something I've been thinking a lot about lately is I think it's really disingenuous and not helpful to think in such dialectic terms as far as normies and awake people, because every awake person has a little normie in them, and every normie has a potential for a completely activated, higher thinking, conscious human being. That's so, it's an imaginary distinction. If you're looking at it from like a intrinsic quality, there are people at different levels of consciousness. But like you were saying yourself, when you first started waking up, you didn't want to look at the negative. You didn't want to acknowledge it. It's a natural response. There's nothing inherently different about you or I than the average Fox News, whatever, watching person, other than certain choices that we've made about what we're willing to accept as true and start operating from that understanding as a framework in life. And I would say sort of resolving yourself to being committed to growth and committed to truth above your own comfort, and shifting yourself to align to it rather than expecting it to cater to you and your comfortable delusions.
Well said. Well said. I think we all have the potential to become more, of course we have, to become more knowledgeable, to evolve more, to improve, to realize more of ourselves, and to realize, and to do that, I just think we have to stop kidding ourselves. We have to be really honest about, looking into stuff. But like we talked about in the beginning, we have to find ways of being able to process information, being able to vent it out, or to take care of ourselves while we grow, into more and more into the person we're supposed to be. Or I don't know if that's a way to say it. I just think that everyone has more potential than we all have more potential than we're activated right now.
Absolutely.
There's more. But
it's like a parallel truth about every single person is they are who they are in this moment, but they are also the potential that they have to what they can become. That should be, it is an aspect of their being. It's like the quantum field or the web of weird sort of a thing.
I do think, however, my personal opinion, that some are too lost in deeply into programming and deeply into their own, behavioral patterns, thinking patterns. And I'm talking maybe about, it can be older people, too much into their own comfort, their comfortable patterns. Even if they're doing a lot of self-sabotage and everything, that I think that they still have the potential, but I think that, the time of the trajectory to move into and activate that potential is really low. They're probably not going to take that step. Some people are activated in that way when if they get sick and they suddenly just in an instant change. So many people, it seems like many people unfortunately have to have like we have to have a huge smack to just get smacked out of the hypnotic state that you're in, to move into, to become more of yourself. But there's so many factors. You talking about doing the self work, and then there's the whole, when you start to look into the natural law aspect of everything, then that opens up a new world, and you have to completely, look at things from more and more. And when you look at it from that perspective, it opens up even more, and Yeah, it's a lot to navigate, but using the power of hypnosis to actually to make it easier to navigate, that is possible. But there's just a lot of things in a way. It's like being in a jungle, and some people have tools to get out of, and cut yourself and make a path, and some are dependent on others to do it for them, and some are not willing to even walk a step because they're afraid what's in the jungle. So they're just standing still. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's another parallel of the possibility is the potential, but there's the probability that's very much in play too. And when dealing with, we're talking about natural law, this is the governing framework, the structure of the universe. It's all about probabilities. If this, then that, and based on the variables. And so if somebody's that entrenched and ensconced in their own mind control and negative behavioral patterns and shadow kind of beliefs and behaviors, then yeah, the probability is very low. It doesn't mean it could never happen, but the likelihood is extremely low. And of course, some people just aren't going to make it. That's just a fact. And but it really comes down to choice and awareness and whether or not they will activate that said potential or not. It's really, it's undetermined until it is. And then, all the possibilities collapse into the present moment of choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And choice, making your own decision instead of delegating your decision making to others.
Right. Or thinking that you can, which is actually impossible. That's a whole other conversation.
Yes.
So yeah, before we move forward into kind of the more specifics of mind control and then healing, could you sort of explain the nuts and bolts of how the process of hypnosis works?
So I can use an example with, working one-to-one with a client then.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have an example of that work. So, yeah, it starts off with, let's say you want to change something. You want to say you want to quit smoking or quit the habit. So the whole process of, first you have made the choice to change. So that is the first step, because for the hypnosis, in my opinion, to work properly, and for it to be used in a correct manner, I believe that the person, going through it should make the decision to do so. So yeah, you make the decision, I want to change, and I want to use hypnotherapy for that. Okay. So the whole process starts off with, you can sit, lay down, you can close your eyes, have them open whenever you want. When you close your eyes and lay back, in a good chair or on the couch, you will probably relax more. So that helps. So the whole process with going through a hypnosis session then would be to you get people in a comfortable state. There has to be rapport present. So here comes the trust again. That's why the media, for example, the news, are able to, through repetition, confusion, and symbols and colors like red and yellow, red, big font with yellow behind it too, because yellow and red means danger. So it triggers the subconscious, triggers the fears. They use that in a way, but they don't use it with consent. But they're not asking for consent, but since we sit down and watch it, we trust the news. We trust this the source of information. If I don't watch the news, then I don't know what's going on in the world. I have to watch the news to be informed. The problem is if it's misinformation, disinformation, you don't have the picture, but you're taking it in. So you're allowing it. You have rapport with the news, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have rapport, you have trust. So with trust, you relax more, the subconscious opens more. So you go, through it. I can use conversational hypnosis. I can talk about I can talk about relaxation. I can give metaphors about relaxing, or metaphors about transformation. And in sharing the stories, the mind starts running more on daydreaming mode. So you start going into a hypnotic state. You can also use, you can also just give direct suggestions, like you're relaxing more and more, your arms are starting to get heavier and heavier. You can do very direct suggestions, and your body will start relaxing or will start getting heavier. If you, I mean, since you're open to that, that will start happening. And that depends. Will you go deep into state of, hypnotic relaxation, or just on the surface? That depends on how suggestible you are, and how maybe how tired you are. You could be really tired that day and you can relax deeper because of that. But anyways, the process is, go through an induction. So you talk a person into relaxing with trust as the foundation. And then you start serving the commands, hypnotic commands, it's called in hypnotic terms. So we use the hypnotic commands to influence the conscious mind to make the changes. So I don't know if that was technical enough, but when you do that, when you're in a relaxed state, the subconscious is open. So it really takes in, it absorbs everything. So I see the words become more as seeds with fertilizer, water, air, and the sun shining on the words, on the seeds. So it grows much faster in the subconscious. Back to the storytelling. You can just tell. Milton Erickson, the father of hypnotherapy that I talked about, he used a lot of storytelling. So in the storytelling, even just folklore and everything.
I was just thinking that the mythology, and that's why the relevance of that for thousands and thousands of years is it has that ability to penetrate into the deeper recesses of the mind and implant morals and virtues and things like that.
Yeah. So that is the simple, what I'm explaining here is maybe more the surface part of hypnosis, where you used it with language, positively empowering, suggestive language that, for the reason to change in an empowering way. And of course, hypnosis can be used the other way too. So it's like a hammer. You can build things and destroy things with it. Mm-hmm. So it's the same. If you want to go deeper with the hypnosis, you can then start accessing, things like past memories, even to that second on the date of a day in the, which year, which day, which you can be really specific with having the conscious go into specific things, memories, and retrieve information. And then you can, of course, when I talk about going into trauma, we can talk about that when we go into the healing part of it. But you can have the subconscious mind go into other lifetimes. It can go into the time when you were in your mother's womb, the birth experience. So you can remember these things either visually, auditory, emotionally. You can feel, you can experience it on maybe just through sensations, but usually you also get some visual images and some insight into what you're going through. So it depends on people, because we're all unique in our way. So the way we experience things is uniquely for everyone, really.
Sure. So it sounds to me, if I can just kind of reiterate what you said, at the base layer, ultimately what hypnosis is the power of suggestion from a technical perspective, that is. The power of suggestion through words most of the time, but can also be symbols, any sort of inputs, sensory, auditory, visual, symbols, colors, anything, but words are probably the most powerful. Or I don't know, would you say words are more or less powerful than like symbols? Or are they just different?
Symbols, symbols would be more when you're in a way, when you have your eyes open.
Because they're more kind of
visual.
subversive. They're like sneakier than just words.
Yes, yes, and they have symbols have an energy to it, and the subconscious mind unfortunately reacts instantaneously to symbols. Symbols have a huge impact.
Hmm.
And yeah, so but yeah, in hypnosis is more related to using words, even though
Mm.
when our eyes are open, colors, symbols, and all of that. But
And
words
of course, the
using
whole suite of
yeah,
all at once being the most effective if you're hitting with words, colors, symbols, everything, all sounds, all at the
yeah.
same time.
And as I said, repetition through visual reading words, hearing the words,
Hmm.
hearing them and reading them from different sources, different
True.
news channels. You hear it from the doctor, you hear it from the government, you hear it at school, people around you are talking about it. So there's so much repetition
Yes.
through visually, and you hear it, and that translates into feeling it as well. So all that repetition, it makes you feel something, and those emotions
Mm.
start building up as well. So there's constantly in the real world, there's constantly a kind of a there's constantly the influence from external sources as
Yeah,
well as
it's
bigger influence from ourselves.
it's really just seems like it's an extension of the most primal aspect of our psychology, which is interacting with the world, right? We
Yeah,
learn through observing patterns. Well, what are patterns? It's something that's repeating. It's a certain outcome that's repeating. So of course, repetition is going to program your brain to tell you, oh, this keeps happening, therefore it must be more true. There must be some sort of basis for that. And so, yeah, it's the suggestion through words and symbols that is made much more potent through a relaxed mental and nervous system state. So
yeah,
then you can use the words to first relax them, to put them in the correct state, and then you
mm,
use the words to then shift certain core beliefs and ideas about
yeah,
things.
yeah. The way that I'm when I'm using, I don't work one to one with people now regularly, because there's so much other things I'm doing on the side. So, but I'm more into conversational hypnosis. So you can talk, you can. There are direct suggestions with, okay, your arms can relax. But Logan, what if I say this to you now? Some people notice that when we're talking together, they can sense a sort of a sense of the one arm being heavier than the other. But sometimes they don't notice that one arm is heavier than the other, but they start noticing that maybe the feet are heavier than the arms. So talking in this way makes you put your attention maybe in your arms, then in your feet, and then you're going within. So you can use language, conversational hypnosis, and really, talk in a. It's almost like magic with words.
Mm.
When you start, using it, you can just really dance around with the words and really just, going into some stories here and then going back to, some people really enjoy when they just let go and relax. So when I said that, some people would really enjoy. I'm not talking about you, Logan, of course. I'm talking about everyone else. But when I say some people can enjoy, and then I say, let's go and relax, that becomes a embedded command in the conversation. I'm saying, some people can enjoy, let's go and relax. So when I say, let's go and relax, I have a little pause before I say it, or I can I can just switch the volume up or down a little bit, or I can just make a change in my facial expression while I'm saying it. So that's why you can use so many things to, have the subconscious just open more and let things go in more. So when we do lay back, let go and watch the television, then we are in that state. So we're ready. We're ready to be imprinted. We're ready to receive. we don't think we are because we're not thinking about it. We think we're really critically thinking and analyzing everything, not realizing that the decisions we make and the thoughts we think and the opinions we have has come from years and maybe generations of programming through what we're talking about now, being that state of receptiveness, but also living life, the experience we have in life it makes an impression as well. So of course there are layers to things that affect us.
Yeah. The idea of magic came up many times so far as we've been speaking. Just the raw power of words in and of themselves. Incantation. That's what to spell. Is your spelling. That the words themselves hold a very powerful charge and influence. And then when you're speaking to someone, this is kind of something I realized with an ex-girlfriend, because, you spend a lot of time with somebody, and especially if they're very talkative, I recognized that when you're speaking to someone, unless you just tune them out, which is not really an option with somebody that you care about and spend time with, like that wouldn't be a very functional relationship if you were just tuning them out all the time. So if you are listening to them, you're kind of forced to let them take you where they take you. If they just start sharing all these random things from their day, and it's like you're sort of forced. You brought up a good point of it's against your consent, but at the same time, you're choosing to listen. Kind of like you choose to turn on the news, it's happening. Yeah. And so in a way, you are consenting to that. But then if you're really listening to them, but just a single word can invoke a thought. It's kind of the whole, like when people say, don't think of a pink elephant, even though they said don't, you can't help but think of it because they just brought that, they just put that in your mind. So that seems like that's kind of what we're getting at with that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have, okay, let's say you come over here, visit my house, and I say to you, look, okay, don't look at the mess around here. Like, you didn't notice the mess before I said, don't look at the mess. My daughter, I remember spilling water on the floor. And I said to my daughter, don't step on that. And she just went, bah, stepped on it. I mean, and she was like 2 years old, so 3 years, I think. So her mind, when you're between 0 to 2 and 2 to 6, your mind is just open.
Yes.
Because the hypnotic state is actually your brain waves slowing down, going from the beta state to alpha and theta. So the brain waves are slowing down. So when we're children, they're slowed down already. That's why we're easily imprinted with everything.
That's why they focus on the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, you can use language in a sneaky way, You don't need to use masks, Don't use masks and then next day just confuse. You need to use 2 masks, and then a week after, don't use any masks. The only thing you hear is use mask, use mask, use mask. Just as an example, because that was also really repetitive, all through the whole thing going on. But yeah, absolutely. You talk, you don't need to notice how comfortable your bed is right now. So of course you use language in a sneaky way, but I would say it's more using it in a creative, artful way, because your intention, like you said, the words are powerful. Yes, they are, especially when the intention behind them are loaded as well. And unfortunately, they are powerful with evil intentions as well, it seems. When people come to work, with using hypnotherapy, the intention of the practitioner and the therapist, I think that is, to be honest, again, humbly saying it, one of the reasons why I got so good results with people, because my intention was clear. So I think the words with the guided meditations, I call them guided meditations, but they're really hypnosis sessions.
Yeah.
But I just cover them, and it's just disguise for hypnosis. But in a there's they're loaded with conversational hypnosis language patterns. They're patterns of language. I just use them for good, to create change, and obviously, that's it's obviously something we should all do. Use when we have knowledge that can help people. We should use them for positive change. Unfortunately, that's not how it is for all. But that's what we're working to get at. To be able to function together as conscious beings.
Very well said.
Art-based and connected.
Yeah. And hence why you have the disparity between the people's lack of knowledge of themselves, their psychology, these techniques as well, with the vast and extensive and almost comprehensive knowledge that the social engineers do have and are using on people every single day.
Yeah. And they definitely have knowledge into what we're talking about.
Yeah. No. And they're using it.
Yeah, they're using it on a bigger scale as well. And we could go deeper into those things, but maybe we will digress from actually talking about hypnosis then. But it all comes down to since we're talking about hypnosis, it's about influencing someone else, either with their consent or without it. But we say without consent. We give consent without knowing it as well. When I turn on the television, that is giving consent.
True.
When I would choose to watch a movie, I'm giving consent.
100%. 100%.
So there's this thing about being conscious about that as well,
Yeah. What are you complicit in without being aware of it? Yeah. What are you agreeing to?
Yeah. And admitting that as well, because a lot of people, there are people. When I had a period from 2011 to 2018 where I worked, 4 or 5 clients every day, 5 days a week. Every week there will be people coming in that just say, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this nonsense, this hypnosis thing, or this thing that you do with the tapping. And I say, yeah, that's okay by me, but you're here, so I do think you actually do believe in it. To some degree. But the question is, you want change. So if you want change, then you're open to do what it takes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we start working, and then I do the conversational hypnosis and go through things. And when we're done, it's like, I wasn't under or anything. I wasn't, I was aware all of the time. Yeah, I know. You're supposed to be aware. You wouldn't feel good if you were completely, unaware of what had happened. So good. You were aware, your subconscious mind probably open. You can look at people. If you have your eyes closed, you can see the eyes twitching, or, just activity in the eyes. You can also see the face blushing more because there's more blood flowing to the face. You can also see, if you pay notice, you can also actually see the pulse. If the pulse is visible, you can see it slowing down. You can see the breathing. That's easier, to see the breathing as it calms. There's also the twitch in the body, when relaxing, there's twitch here and there. So there are ways to see, when people are in that state. So, I can point that out. So I had also a biofeedback monitor. So it measured the humidity or in the fingers. So the more you relax, the more relaxed the body is. The less humid, the less resistance
like there is. Clammy, basically, clamminess.
So you could measure it as well, actually. So there were many ways. I was never into, and I've never been into, convincing people to believe in something. It's just it's a waste of time. But I do. That's why I like to create the guided meditations, because then I can just serve it, and I don't need to, I don't need to have a conversation around it every time. Did it work? Did it not work? Use it repeatedly and see what happens. And then, of course, use critical thinking. If there is something in there that is absolutely not right for you, then you have the ability to think and make your own decisions about it.
Yeah. So yeah, really good stuff so far. I think this is really important stuff that we're getting into that, we aren't normally exposed to this kind of information. So hopefully the folks listening are getting value out of this. Again, if you are, take the 1 second to drop down and hit the like button. That's the easiest way you can help the channel and the content. And so continuing on here, before we get into the healing stuff, which I think is very, very crucial, just can you think of any other examples in the mind control side of things that you can bring up, methods or just specific examples, essentially?
Okay, so we talked about confusion,
repetition.
Confusion, repetition, trigger words. There's a lot of trigger words. You can have we mentioned safe and effective. There's also death, crisis, suffering, dangerous, chaos, threat, unsafe. Polarity of safe,
anarchy.
Anarchy, definitely. Pandemic. And of course that's another story. I won't digress. You have disaster, collapse, plague, famine. You have these words, and as long as all these words will trigger fear of suffering or fear of death. I would say both.
Or loss.
Yeah. And loss is fear of death of others, maybe, and then fear of dying alone, all by myself. Usually, when you go into the depth of loss, so there's some fear of abandonment, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear. Ultimately, it leads to fear of suffering, fear of death. So it just seems like these words are, back in. Even back in before I knew about hypnosis and NLP and everything, I stopped watching the news because there were too much of it, too much of these trigger words. And I noticed they didn't make me feel good. Not because I want to feel good all of the time, but then I started to ask myself, why am I even listening to the news? I mean, they're just talking about nothing. I'm not learning anything.
And there's nothing you can do about any of it.
No. So it's like, you have someone got robbed here and someone died there, and all this information they did not present anything preventive or they did not suggest any solutions. There's nothing of that. So there's these tricks.
Add helplessness to the mix as well, futility,
absolutely,
and just this idea that the world is just burning.
Yeah, and the world is dangerous. That is also a core belief many people have, and that ties into past lives as well. Being hanged, being everything from burned on the stake to drowned, and everything. And especially that ties into. We're going to go more into that, but that ties into why are people afraid of speaking up? For example, why are people afraid of going the other direction than the crowd is going, even when they know inside themselves, they know that it's right for me to go in this direction, but since the crowd is going that direction, I'm going there too. That it's the fear of, like you say, fear of abandonment, fear of loss, fear of death, fear of suffering, but it triggers fear of being in some way tortured or even, the execution in past lives. There's a lot of that going on. I can speak personally, my own personal experience by going into past lives, but also I'm working with a lot of people doing past life regression. There's a lot of horrible deaths. It's connected to our day-to-day issues, especially anxiety and fear, especially. that's where you find most of the horrible deaths and torture and what I'm talking about. I mean, it sounds awful, but it's reality. You can go if you go back in the medieval times.
Oh yeah.
How did they handle people? Cooking herbs to help people heal.
Burn her.
And
One
not
path
only
on.
that, people crowded, cheered for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then relate that back into what's going on in the world when, for example, the things that have been going on since 2022 until now, or 2022, all the pandemic thing. And there was a lot of cheering for the bad guys, in my opinion. Okay, so we mentioned repetition, trigger words, confusion, and then there's colors, symbols, patterns, which also have a huge impression. The news uses it, but also think about movies. I think movies and series are the worst.
It's combining. It's the symbolism and the colors and these things with the stories. It's mythology as well. So it's very potent.
100%. Even think about Disney movies. How many Disney movies starts off with a child losing its parent? If you just notice it, how much it's all this. Almost all. It seems like all good stories should start with a child losing its parent.
Mm-hmm.
What does it do? Yeah, it triggers fear, and then we're really impressionable as children, so we start fearing losing our parents, which can be a fear anyway, but it also connects into our past life. So there's always the triggering of past memories, this life or other lifetimes, or through ancestrals, or in the collective. There's also the collective, issues or trauma. So there's several levels of things being triggered through, like you say, symbolism, and then the story and mythology around it. And like I said, stories are powerful. Metaphors and stories go. You don't need to be in a relaxed state. When you hear a good story, you are in a hypnotic state. If you're deep into the hypnotic state, or just something in the middle, or on the surface, I don't know, but subconscious is open.
Yeah, you're captivated. A captive audience is what they call it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fascinating.
So stories, definitely. Yeah, and fear and guilt. We're talking a lot about fear, but there's a lot of guilt and shaming as well going on.
Yeah.
To control people.
If you don't get the jab, you're killing grandma.
And you want to kill your grandma.
Yes. Or don't give up your guns. You want children to die.
Yeah. There's always something, and it's almost like, if you notice, there's this also around the whole climate change thing. It's like we're horrible human beings that we've done this to the world. Now we should suffer and pay more taxes, and we should be we should be confined within 15-minute cities, and there's all these things coming into play, and they use the guilt and shame to try to, they triggered in us to try to, and not try to, they want to, keep us more on they want to gather the cattle and keep us more, confined in a way. We don't see it because we have so much. We have, where the fences are not visible for us in the same way as for real cattle.
So. Yeah, even like the population control, overpopulation is a form of gaslighting of like your very existence, you being born is a burden to the earth and society, and you should be pro just all these depopulation things. It ties right into religion, the guilt for existing, original sin. You're just a sinner, and government as well. People are evil, wicked, selfish, whatever you want to call it. So we need a violent, authority to keep law and order and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think about the Apple logo? Do you think that triggers off the original sin in many people?
absolutely.
I think so too. Do you
Yeah,
think it's coincidence?
not at all. No, that's definitely some dark occult
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
sorcery. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to, when we notice that, because the subconscious mind notice programming can also be very subtle. So you have subliminal programming. To describe it in a movie, you can flash an image of Budweiser for 0.0001 milliseconds, and your subconscious mind will register it, but your conscious mind won't even notice it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Do
the
you ever
question is,
see?
okay, well, what is our if when this is the case, is that being used on us without us knowing it? Might be, we don't know because we're not noticing it.
Yeah, but yeah, the simplest explanation is often the correct one, and if they can do it, then would they do it? Almost always, yes. It's like, because they don't have the same morality as the typical. I mean, even that's a bit of a stretch, but they're not the benevolent people that often people kind of project onto them of like, oh well, sure they could, but they wouldn't do that. People aren't that evil. It's like, well,
And that when we're talking about, we're saying government, but in reality, it's not government. Governments are puppets. So
they're a
we have to
low
go
layer
deeper.
of the pyramid for sure.
Go up the pyramid to really, I think, understand what's going on, and
Mm-hmm.
go far enough up the pyramid. We're talking about not even human beings anymore, I think. So, and then we can ask the questions: what kind of technology and insight into psychology and how to affect us do they have? What kind of access do they have into our, But then it gets a little dark thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
But it is a question to ask. How much are we? How much are we being susceptible to things without knowing it? Because there are some other beings and people using occulted knowledge to just play with us.
100%. No doubt
And
about
then
that.
we went to, CIA. I think it was a CIA. I'm not saying this is correct 100%, but I think CIA experimented with using Wi-Fi signals to check if that disturbed our energetic organic field enough to make it more open to suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
And it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was the conclusion.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. We were talking about television earlier, and it's like just even the flicker rate of the screen itself induces a hypnotic state open to suggestion. And then in addition to that, the images and the audio coming through that device is then further hypnotizing you. So now it's like, some say that the modern monitors don't have the same flicker rate as the older types of cathode TVs and stuff. It's like, well, now, but they've got Wi-Fi, so they've just, it's always evolving.
It is. I think a Wi-Fi and then the LED lights behind the TV. There's something with the LED lights. I'm not into it, but I just picked up something here another day. I think it was Tom Montauk. I don't know if you heard of him. Have you? Tom Montauk. He's talking about a lot of metaphysical stuff connected to also earthly stuff going on. But what I wanted to mention was that when you talk about colors and things coming at you, if you turn on Netflix, when you turn it on, the end, it starts moving towards you, and then it becomes red and blue with a lot of stripes.
Mm-hmm.
Red and blue are mind control colors.
Mm-hmm. Like police lights.
Parties. Yeah, the political parties have red and blue.
Yes,
there's red and blue everywhere for everything, and that's because you're choosing. It can be used to choose sides, but also when the Netflix thing comes against you, and there's all the stripes and everything on it as well. It does something with the visual cortex, so you become more open, and then the sound, and then you're in the zombie mode. So if you're not aware. And then you just turn on and then watch your entrainment program. But my son, he's aware of these things. He's 13 now, but I've been telling him about, just, a little bit at a time to just building it up. But when he turns on Netflix, he's like, he don't want to see it. Actually, he refuses to consent with
Nice.
yeah. So and he notices things as well. Dad, did you see the Apple logo in the background there? Did you notice? Dad, do you notice that they're drinking alcohol in every movie? Did you notice that there's always a coffee shop or a coffee cup or a coffee machine in the background? Did you notice? So there's things to notice that, and he's noticing it. And so we watch movies together.
Yeah.
We're tuned into that. My wife is like, "Oh, do you always have to talk in the movies?" Yeah, we have to. I mean, it's important stuff. We have to notice these things.
That's amazing. You've taught him well. Yeah.
I do my best.
So, before we get into the healing, which will be kind of the final segment, what are some ways is there ways that we can kind of mitigate some of these effects? And I'm sure just being aware does have some effect, but of course it's not like we talked about in the beginning. It's not going to give you total immunity to it. But just simply being aware of these techniques, what are some other ways that we can mitigate the effects? And can you suggest some good sources that people can go to start to learn about this stuff on their own to sort of self-educate?
Okay, so how to mitigate? First step is, I think there is something about admitting to ourselves that, okay, even though if you don't believe in the whole thing that there are actually social engineers intentionally doing what they're doing, that's why the world is full of pain, one of many reasons why there's so much suffering. But if you can admit to yourself that you might have been programmed without knowing, and not, there's something about being too proud to, now I'm too strong, I'm too smart, I'm too, so that doesn't work on me. So, that's the first step, in a way, admitting it. But I do think that you have to at least have some insight into how the mind works, how it is programmed. And hopefully some of the stuff I shared today will help. Some of the stuff we talked about can help. But I just think you have to have some knowledge about it. And even if you don't believe that someone is doing it intentionally towards you, even just having knowledge about it, you can protect yourself to a certain degree. The next thing is, if you haven't done any inner work, I mean, there's one thing to have knowledge, but if you're not taking action on the knowledge, so if you're not living, let's say you have knowledge about how to take care of your body and mind to stay most, protected against these things and mitigate a lot of these things, influences. Well, if you know how to take care of yourself, but you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not actually using the knowledge you have. So there's something with having knowledge and then taking action on it.
Yeah.
And then, taking action in a way. When I'm saying inner work, I'm mainly referring to healing trauma and diving deep into belief systems, the beliefs you hold, because the beliefs we hold and the trauma we have are connected to the fear and the guilt and shame that we subconsciously, unconsciously hold on to. It will get triggered eventually in something someone says. Relationships, intimate relationships, that's places where our shadows can get really triggered. And in family conflicts, the shadows can get triggered. Yes, of course, there is even if you can mitigate the influence, you will still be, get angry for something when something is not right, and you can still get triggered by things, because when we heal in layers. So we get rid of some stuff and then new layers come up. So there's always, I think that the whole inner work thing is a continuous journey. I don't think you're done. There's not a destination that I know of yet. And I've been doing it since 2010, working on myself. And there's still work to do. I've done a lot. So what I've noticed in myself is that I have to make as many high quality choices that I can in life to take care of myself. And then also accept that if I choose to watch a movie, then that movie will contain things that can affect me. But I can also set a boundary before watching the movie. So I can say to myself that, I can use an incantation, stating out that I'm the owner
Yes.
of my body, mind, and soul. I'm connected to the undistorted source of creation. I'm a conduit for that energy. And that is my will. That is the law. And so it is. You can say things to set boundaries. I think setting boundaries physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically is another way of saying that. I would say energetically will be the step we need to become more conscious of. And then we need to have knowledge about, what am I going to set my boundaries for? What am I protecting myself against? So there's this whole blend all the time, for me at least, the way I see it, of having knowledge, always learning more, integrating it, and then taking action on it, processing it, taking action, learning, failing, learning, failing, growing, and then that journey all the time. But boundaries for me seems to be a key into how we can navigate through all of this, and then at least reduce some of the things thrown at us all the time.
Yeah, it's like we live in a toxic world, right? And it doesn't matter how healthy you are, even from a physical standpoint, you're going to be exposed to pollutants and contaminants. And so it's not about living in a bubble and keeping yourself so perfect and pristine. It's about learning how to actually detox and just to let that move through you and back out, so it doesn't start infecting your being, and invading your boundaries, like you said. So another thing I want to add is, it's like knowledge is going to steal you in the mental realm, but it's energetic as well, and they're also all connected. The physical, the mental, the spiritual, they're all one thing. They're different layers of the same thing. So taking action towards bolstering your own power in all three of those domains, and how you do that in the spiritual realm is through magic, energy work, and things like casting the circle and strengthening that energetic and spiritual boundary. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, or you want to learn more how to do that, there's a link down below for the initiation package, where I teach this and several other very practical and essential magical skills that everyone should at least be aware of and be doing. Because again, it's like, it doesn't matter how strong you are, everybody's being exposed to it. And so you have to have a certain, to take that into account in your day-to-day, to help kind of always be processing and moving that through you.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning, tricks you can use, because that's also the thing. Let's say you have to be in a situation, not have to. Let's say you decide to watch a movie, and you can either notice it's still affecting you. Some of the images are, flashing by when you lay down to bed to sleep. You notice the images, or you had to be around people that were affecting you in a negative way, or you had to do something, not that went against your will, but just something that you had. Sometimes we have to make some sacrifices, maybe for our children as well, and then we have to go through some stuff that really is taxing. And then what do we do when that influence, when where we're in that? So the things you mentioned as well, some other things I thought about was EFT, the whole tapping, because when you start, stimulating the energy meridians, and EFT is awesome because you use words as well. So I use EFT a lot with hypnotherapy. So I can do So sometimes I do the past life regression with EFT tapping instead of doing it in a hypnotic state. We're doing it with eyes open and going into stuff. So that is possible too. But also NLP techniques, actually. Just a simple thing. And this sounds simple, but it can be really effective. A simple thing as imagine, let's say you have like a really awful image from a movie imprinted in your mind. You can't let go of it. It gave you a really, bad feeling as well. Let's say it was a satanic abuse of some sort. And then when you think about that memory, the reason it's affecting us as well is because it's like we're in it. We have the image really close to us in the mental thought bubble around us. So if you take that image, drain all the colors out, make it black and white, shrink it down into a size of a stamp, and then imagine blowing that stamp away from you. Like it is, so it's like 10 feet away from you, 20 feet away from you. And then watch the image inside that little stamp 20 feet away from you. Notice the image inside that stamp. When you do that, it's like rewiring. The whole neurological signals firing off will be very different when you think of something far away from you versus having it up in your face. And that's the thing with trauma as well, just to maybe a little digression, but just adding that.
Yeah.
Trauma, the trauma we carry is in our face. So wherever we turn, it's in our face. We have it up. So when we work with it, we get it, we dissociate from it, or we detach from it. We energetically, cut bonds to it. So
distance from yourself.
Distancing, and probably we form energetic bonds to everything we do and people we relate to and everything. So actually thinking about, all the mental cords, emotional cords, there are a lot of things going on. So there are probably ways around to mitigate this. But being conscious is, first step, admitting that this is going on. And yeah.
Always. Yeah. Very well said, brother. And can you share just off the top of your head any free resources, books or YouTube channels for these different, for NLP or hypnosis or whatever else is relevant?
Okay. I'm thinking about things, but there's some books that are really technical, but I'm trying to think of something that are really, easy to digest. I would say things, NLP, Richard Bandler is one of the founders of NLP. I think he is really good at explaining and talking about. He uses hypnosis and NLP, so he has like live demonstrations from courses, from workshops and things, so you can see things in action and starting to learn more about how the mind structures thoughts and memories. There's what is the visual. What is the visual content? What is the auditory content? What is the kinesthetic content? What is the smell in that memory? What is everything? So it's like building blocks for every sense in a way. So he's in my opinion, he has some really good information about that. Also, actually, Tony Robbins has a book called Unlimited Potential. I think it was his first book. So some people don't like Tony Robbins because of his personal thing. I see it in this way. If the content is good, it doesn't matter if you like someone or not.
Yeah.
You'd actually be able to objectively tune into the information. But anyways, Tony Robbins, Unlimited Power and Awaken the Giant, because they talk a lot about, what we're talking about now, the state we're in when we're influenced, and they give a lot of practical tools as well. So in my opinion, those books are good. As in terms of like pure hypnosis book, sorry, I can't come to think of any at the top of my head right now.
No problem. I mean, if someone's hell bent on doing something, they will find a way. So there's lots of stuff out there in internet land, at least, or Audible or Amazon or something.
Yeah. I will see if something more comes to mind. I will let you know.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, so let's get into the healing, right? This is the part where we can really be the most empowered. And I mean, for me, again, as I've covered so much on mind control and the trauma-based aspects of that, the wounds of our psyche are the entry points for these different programs. That is so crucial to understand how all of it works. So the more we can be empowered within the realm of our own capabilities, and there's so much we can do, without having to spend lots of money or go to some exotic part of the world and do some elaborate like ayahuasca thing or whatever. I mean, that's a viable option, but there's a lot we can do in just sitting with ourselves or working with someone like a hypnotherapist or something like that to heal those wounds, to close the holes that then cannot be exploited as a weakness, to get you caught up and leashed out in some bullshit that's serving someone else's agenda and not in your best interest. So let's get into, how does the healing aspect of this work, and is it really so different technically from the mind control part of it, or is it really more just how it's being used and the intention behind it?
Technically, it's different in a way because it's more, that in terms of using it for healing, the language will be much more empowering. Because the way it is used in media, for example, is not empowering language. It's really based on fear, guilt, triggering, and just getting people, to just be weak and separate and go against each other and all that. So, the difference is the use of language. It's much smoother. It's more artful. That's my opinion and the way I see it. So that's the difference. The other difference is that when you use hypnosis as a tool or hypnotherapy as a tool for healing, you have decided to do so. So you made a decision to do so. You're consenting consciously.
Mm-hmm.
While when it's used as a weapon, then they have us consent unconsciously. So there's that. Yeah. And then there's another layer of using it for healing, because we're only talking about using words now. But when you move into the using it for healing realm, then we also have the thing with accessing information from the subconscious to help heal current issues. So that's when we're talking about regression. You can even, we can do regression in awake state every time you think of a memory from the past. Logan, do you have a memory from the past where you felt courageous? Or where you felt did you follow through on something and made something happen? Or a memory of standing up for yourself or others? Something like that? A memory that you remember well?
Yeah.
How far back does it go? Like years? Is it like in your adult life, or do you have something in your childhood? Or
definitely more in my adult life. I've really, cultivated a lot of that over years of shifting, where my younger self was not very courageous or assertive or bold. Or I was, just I was a target for bullies, and I guess if that's more indicative of the mindset. It's kind of hard to describe it literally.
I get that. What I'm thinking then is that you probably have back in time. You probably have some memory or something you have experienced where you felt good, or where you felt at peace, or where you were content. The reason I mentioned this is just the thing with going back in time, because now you're talking about yourself as a child. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe that evokes some emotions without not necessarily strong, but you can sense something happening. It's because you're regressing back, so there's a power in regressing back. But when you use hypnosis, you regress back to heal, not to just talk about it, or not just to feel it without any intention to do something more with it. So, when I remember I did a hypnotherapy session, and the woman asked me to go back to a time where you felt really, happy when you were a child. And I went back to a memory where I just sat on the kitchen at the kitchen table at home, and my parents weren't at home. That was the best thing ever. When they were gone, I just felt at peace. I could be home alone. I was sitting there reflecting. So I went back into earlier life, childhood memories. I noticed that I wasn't really that happy, but I was really happy when I could just sit and reflect and be by myself, be at peace. So we probably have some things that where all of us have moments of feeling content, moments of feeling, happy or satisfied, even though we had, a negative childhood in a way. So using regression, let's say you were talking about bullying and talking about stuff. So with the use of regression, let's say hypnosis with healing now, you could I'm not going to use you as an example now, Logan, because I'm just going to use an example with, let's say, a person that has anxiety. That anxiety is connected to past experiences, which holds the anxiety in place. So look at the anxiety as a tabletop, and the table legs are the memories that actually are the reason for that anxiety. And that anxiety gets, it gets worse as well when you have bad relationships, when you have a job that you hate, and there are other things, and food we eat and everything. So there's a lot of things playing into this. But you can go back and collapse those feet, chop off those table legs, and the anxiety will collapse as well. On the emotional level, on the emotional and mental level. But the problem is then if you go, let's say the anxiety is gone, but then you go and just live your life as you always done. You don't make any changes. You live in the same shitty relationship, the same shitty job you do, just eat the same shitty food. You will end up building up anxiety again. Or it will go over to anger, another layer of, I'm not talking about anger used for productive, effective good. I'm talking about, bitterness, resentment, anger seeping into, destroying the heart energy. Or sadness, deep sadness, or you have 5 root emotions: sadness, guilt, anxiety, fear, and anger. That's the root emotions that are usually connected to all emotional, psychological problems, even physical problems as well. So, but now I went into the healing part. But to conclude your question, it is the same. It is with use of words, but the difference is that we use words in a more smooth way. We use it artfully with intention to help, to empower, to heal, while when used as a weapon, it's used more, aggressively and more intrusive and not as artful.
Yeah. Yeah, very good explanation. And so if we've already talked a little bit about, you've said yourself, it is possible to do this work on yourself. What, when it comes to kind of comparing doing this on yourself versus going to work with someone that can help you, I would guess maybe you can get faster results by working with someone. So can you talk about the differences between doing it yourself versus working with someone, and how quickly can someone make some like big shifts when well, I guess on either, but I'm assuming the working with someone could go faster. So then kind of could you make a big shift with only a few sessions, or would take a few months or years, or
Good questions. So working with a competent therapist versus working on yourself, I do both. What I've noticed is that even though I'm not afraid to go within and go deep into the darkest wounds and everything, that's something I can do for myself, and I can also hold that space for others. I think that we unconsciously have, we protect ourselves for something because it is pain.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into painful memories, you use the hypnotic state. When you're in the relaxed hypnotic state, when you go into the memory and go through it correctly, I would say, go through the layers and the aspects of it, you feel the emotions, but they dissipate more and more. You feel them to finish them, because trauma is, it's like a soul fragment frozen in the energetic field. So you haven't processed the emotions that you produced during that trauma. You have to go back to let them go. So you're actually going back to that inner child and helping that little you letting go, a healing. And usually you have to feel through the layers of emotion and go through the painful events. But some people will maybe ask, is that dangerous? I would say no, not at all. But maybe you have to decide for yourself, are you ready to do that? Yeah, are you willing to face those part of you? I would start off with doing it with a therapist and then learn it by myself. So that's what I did. I learned the techniques. I used it on myself and others, like simultaneously. But I believe in working with others because there is something happening when we exchange energy. And, when we're together now, Logan, that your consciousness, my consciousness, and, we're circulating energy in a way, and things come up in a way that they wouldn't do if I did this interview with someone else. I mean, not better or worse, but it would be different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a communication going on,
collaboration
and a communication on a subtle level between our souls, I believe, or spirits, where now we're doing some work together. Doing it by yourself is effective too, if you're willing to really feel all of it. Because when you have a therapist working with you, if he or she is skilled and have the courage to allow you to go through the emotions instead of wanting to rapidly get you through it to get done with it, because it's not comfortable sitting in a room with someone and people could shake, scream. That's not happening often, but it happens. I mean, I remember this woman going into it. She went back. She had, I don't know what it was. She had claustrophobia, I think.
Mm.
And she felt this, she felt the feeling of being strangled when she felt the claustrophobia. So I asked her subconscious mind. I haven't talked about this, but the subconscious mind can indicate where the trauma is by giving signals, yes and no signals with the fingers. Or you can do muscle testing as well. There are several ways of doing this. You can use your body as a pendulum to have it say yes or no. So you can ask the subconscious, where is the root cause of this claustrophobia? So for this woman, it indicated 2 past lives, birth, and something in childhood. She went directly into a past life, and as soon as she went into it, she was like sitting in the chair, and you go,
oh wow.
And she's just, I'm drowning. And you could almost literally hear the water in the throat and the lungs.
Wow.
The sounds you made. And I remember that was in the beginning of my working. I was like, shit, what's going on? I have to keep my cool here. I just have to be present. I'm here. I'm professional. So there's something about, I don't think the likelihood for her feeling that 100% like she did working with me versus working on her own, I don't know. I can't give a definitive answer here, but I think that she may not have gone into it in such a depth. So maybe the release would be slower. I don't know. I've worked with myself and gone into a lot of stuff and released it. I think the combination, Logan, it's just a combination. I think that we should all have techniques for working with our own trauma, because like you say, it creates crack in the psyche. It creates crack in the energetic field. So we have these openings where things can, sneak in, and we don't want that. So clearing out the trauma also balances our belief system. It cleanses out more of, the more you cleanse out trauma, the more you will also enhance self-worth, self-respect, self-love. It will happen automatically, step by step, because you're clearing out memories that are directly related to the low self-worth.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of positive side effects when you work on an issue. So this woman, let's say she had to work through four root causes, 2 past lives, 1 birth experience, and 1 thing in the childhood. When that cleared, her claustrophobia was cleared as well. She could feel nervous going into rooms or into tight spaces and closed spaces, but she didn't feel the anxiety and the overwhelming fear anymore. So that was gone. So things like that happened. That was 4 sessions. So let's say 1 session is 1 hour to 1 hour and a half. If that person has had a problem with claustrophobia for 40 years, then doing 4 sessions is not a long time.
Yeah.
And those sessions were spread out in 6 to 8 weeks. So things can happen very fast. I did my hypnotherapy training with a doctor. He used, when people came to him for anxiety, he didn't write pills. So it's the prescriptions for pills. He used hypnotherapy and EFT when they came in. He told me a story. I did an interview with him years ago, and he told me a story about a woman having a fear of spiders and having it for all her life. After 6 minutes, she felt clear that they even tested it with going to a spider web and tried to trigger it, but it couldn't be triggered anymore. But that is not. I wouldn't say that is a normal. I mean that is unacceptable. That is exceptionally fast. I don't think that we can't expect things to heal that fast, but it does happen, and that is awesome, right?
Yeah,
it's powerful, and it can happen fast. The sad story about that doctor, though, his colleagues, the other doctors in his office space, didn't like what he was doing, so he had to move. He was I think they threatened him with some lawsuit or something if he continued doing that. So
they all became Agent Smith and started attacking the threat to the system.
Yeah, he healed people.
Yeah,
I thought that was how dare you? So he helped with that, but he also mentioned he was the one actually learning how to. When my wife gave birth to my children, I have a daughter and son. We used birth hypnosis. So that is also a thing you can use it. My wife was terrified of giving birth, but first we worked on clearing out the fear of giving birth, and then we worked on preparing the body and the baby to work harmoniously to allow him to come out of the portal into the physical world.
Yeah.
So we used that on both our children, and she went from having total anxiety thinking about giving birth to being relaxed without taking any medication, anything. So that's another powerful way. The words, that was just the use of words as well. Of course we cleared the trauma, but this positive suggestions around the birthing experience made it possible for her to give birth in that way. But it wouldn't work if she was not willing. She was not, wanting to do that,
Yeah.
wanting to change. So yeah, that was a bit of a side story, but combination ourselves and with a therapist. You learn a lot by doing work with a therapist. So when you learn to do it for yourself, you have, references of things, the experience you have.
Hmm.
And in case the other question you asked about how long time can we expect this, it depends on what you work on. But usually when I worked with people with phobias, anxiety, and stuff like that, it was usually within 5 sessions.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would probably have something to do with how, like we talked about in the beginning, how suggestible someone is, how kind of open they are as a baseline.
Yeah. The thing is, when I work with, that is definitely a positive thing. Having that baseline, it makes it go faster, easier, more smooth. When you work with trauma, just as an example, I had one woman, also claustrophobia. She didn't believe in hypnotherapy. When I mentioned regression back in time, she almost laughed at me, especially when I mentioned past lives. She were in my office because she was recommended by someone else, but she was going to London for a trip, so she didn't want to stand in we call it underground, and just you're standing like this there.
Oh yeah.
So she wanted to do the work. So I had to ask her, do you want to do this, even though you don't believe in it? She said yes. So I tested her subconscious mind. I asked her subconscious, where is the root cause of this claustrophobia? Is it in adult life? And the subconscious mind gave a weak answer, weak reply with weak muscles, which means it's a no.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, is the root cause in your teenage years? No. Is it in your childhood? No. Is it in the birth? No. Is it in the womb? No. Is it in past life? Yes.
Ah.
She was like looking at me like, past lives. So I don't know. Your subconscious mind is saying is, I trust your subconscious mind more than I trust with your opinion and my opinion.
Right. It's like it was your answer. Like, what do you look at?
We double check. So you can try to fool the answer or to manipulate it, but you can't, because you can ask question in different ways, so you can you just check the answer, check if it's reliable.
Mm-hmm.
It also indicated that it was 4 past lives, not just 1. So she regressed back to 4 past lives. And just to tell this experience, but I think this is important, she didn't see anything. It was not like she was seeing, I'm experiencing this and I'm experiencing that. She didn't see nothing. But she was just feeling like, oh, I have this pain in my neck. Oh, it's gone now. Oh, my elbow. Oh, it's hurting. Oh, my knees. She just went through body sensations. And could we know that it was working? No, I had no idea. But her subconscious mind indicated after each session that she had done the work needed in that past lifetime. So she went over to the next. After the 4th session, she went for the trip. She came back and she just said, I still don't believe in this, but I did take the underground, and I stood there with all those people without feeling, I felt nothing. I saw my husband sweat. Never noticed that before, because it was always me sweating.
Mm-hmm.
But I was calm. So it seems like things can let go when you target the emotional root cause, and you get yourself out of the way and ask the subconscious, where is the root cause of this? Because then my opinion or my experience, yes, of course, that is helpful. When my experience is helpful when we do the regression, because I can guide through it. But it's good to know that we can heal even though we don't believe in the method being used. I think that's really powerful. I like that.
Yeah, because it's the conscious mind is having friction and doubt and disbelief, but you're not. It's like I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the subconscious mind in there.
And those are almost the best sessions, because it almost gives me proof.
Yeah, it's even more validating for sure. That's really cool.
Mm. Yeah. So, was there a question I was answering to now? I can't
I think
remember.
that covered everything. It was comparing, self work with working with a professional, and then the time frames, which you touched
Yeah,
on all that. So
that was it. And then, yeah, can I add a little bit on time frame?
sure.
If you work on an issue like self-worth, that will take more time because that's a more, I don't know, anxiety, phobias, those are more specific because it's in place because you're filled up, the stress tank is just filled up and it's overflowing. The pressure cooker is just,
Hmm.
that's why the anxiety is there. But when you talk about lack of self-worth and, lack of self-esteem, it's more intricate. There's more issues related to one another. You have issues with abandonment, and you have rejection, and you have abuse maybe, and then there's so much involved. So targeting self-worth, it's possible, of course, to
There's
work
more
with
threads that are
more
interwoven that you have to address it one by one. Mm,
more more
yeah.
work. It will take more time. The reason it takes more time as well because you have to integrate much more of your new behavior, new choices and actions into the physical domain. So you've done the emotional work, and then the emotional affects the physical and the mental, but you have to also start changing your thought patterns because the thought forms that have their own consciousness and live there and have always had the low self-worth, they're still active wanting to be alive. So you have to work on getting rid of that as well. So there's the part of reprogramming, maybe using incantations, affirmations. That's why I do create a lot of affirmations. Use them as a tool for reprogramming. So when you use that in conjunction with the trauma work, then you have, you gain much more momentum. Then you work emotionally, you work on the mental, and then you take action. That's probably the most challenging part for people, changing things in the physical. Because maybe when you start working on your self-worth, you notice that, shit, I'm in a relationship that I really don't want to be in. I've just been here because it's given me a false sense of being worthy. But that's just been an illusion. That's not been real world worth.
Mm.
I had to behave to feel worthy. I had to behave correctly. I had to do things that I, like this or that. I had to. So there are things we had to live up to other people's expectations to just get a tiny sense of feeling worth.
Hmm.
But we can connect to the innate worth that we are just by also number one by being, a divine spark of source in a human body. We have that worth innately in us. There's also that doesn't mean that we don't have to reprogram or work on ourselves to actually feel that 100% in our bodies. There's a difference between knowing mentally that yes, I'm a divine spark of source creation, the organic original source creation in the human body. That's one side of it. But is that integrated? And that can only, in my opinion, be integrated through the combination of working with the emotional, mental, and physical, taking action. So over time, maybe you have to go through all the seasons. The you have to go through years, maybe 1 year. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's just half a year. It depends. It depends on how active you are. It depends on your mindset. It depends on. I think it does depend on how much willpower you use as well, because willpower is definitely a force
Mm.
that is helpful when you want to work with yourself and make change. I think willpower is an ingredient that is essential. Because without it, maybe we are prone to, falling back into self-sabotaging patterns, and then, falling back into the patterns that created the low self-worth as well. Even though you've healed the trauma, you're still acting out the patterns. So, but when you've healed the traumas, there's more, it's much easier to make the physical change as well. But if you only use willpower, that is possible. In my opinion and experience, there's much more resistance. Maybe it doesn't have to be. Depends on what we're talking about. There's no black and white answer here, I think. But it's just willpower and doing conscious work. If it's inner child healing work, if it's regression with hypnotherapy, whatever it is, but the combination. So then that is work that takes more time, but I would say it's worth it. I mean, all the learning you do, all the insight you get, all the building yourself up to becoming more powerful, more empowered, more conscious, more heart-based, more present, more balanced, more grounded. It's the journey of healing more than a destination in a way, even though we should not get lost in, oh, it's just trauma. I need to heal this trauma and then everything will be all right. Or I just need to, maybe some people can get maybe too caught up in always having to do some inner work to be able to live, I think. But I think, we need to retract from that as well sometimes and have a pause and, let things process and let things integrate and then go back into it. With a therapist or without one, depending on how comfortable you are working on yourself.
Love it. Great answers. And I think this is a good place to kind of wrap things up. This has been a lot of information, absolutely incredible, and even better than I expected it to be. Hopefully everyone that listened to this got some value and ideally would inspire someone to take action and to seek this knowledge out for yourself or find someone to work with, whether it be Kenneth or someone else. And essentially we should all be doing the work, like you said. That is the most important thing, because as within, so without. If you're trying to skip over that step and do everything about the external situation of things, I mean, that is important, but you can't bypass the most important thing. And everything that you do will be a reflection of your state of mind. And a big aspect of that is the shadow and all of these wounds and things that we carry around that need to be addressed at some point. And like you said, it's going to shift such major things. You can watch a person essentially very much transform their whole being, their presence, their energy. And I think your energy speaks for itself. It's apparent that you've done a lot of work. You have a very calming presence, and it's like it's confidence, but not egotistical. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. So before we wrap it up, brother, just tell the people, what are you working on? Where can they find you? And what would you like them to do to connect with you?
Yeah. Thank you for the kind words. It's been a pleasure connecting with you as well. So in terms of finding me, I'm just going to say now, I don't do one-to-one sessions now. I plan to start doing that maybe sometime later this year. But you can find a lot of the things that I've created, the content I have on my YouTube channel. And it's just Kenneth Soares. You'll find me there. I think it's Kenneth Soares Universe, after the slash. I also have a website, which is not as updated as I would like it to, but I'm going to post more content there as well, especially in the things we talked about today, giving more presentations and stuff like that. Logan, even preparing for this podcast, I was just jotting down notes because I like having notes and being prepared for going into the content we're going to talk about. And I realized right while I'm writing it, it's like, okay, I'm actually creating a presentation here. So afterwards now I can take the notes and I can start creating a presentation from it. So thanks for that. And let me see. KennethSoares.earth is the website. Currently, I'm working on finishing up a book on setting boundaries. The name is The Art of Setting Boundaries. Setting boundaries with authenticity, integrity, and heart. I'm in the finishing stages of editing it. I actually added a trauma tapping process, instructions on how to actually do this work, going into how you can access trauma and then how you can work safely on it. Safely and effectively. Yeah. Let me think. I'm on the Insight Timer app. That's a free app. If you want to avoid all the ads and everything on YouTube, if you're not paying for it, then you can go to the Insight Timer app. I have all my content there. So my content is basically guided meditations, which focuses on everything really from, I do use hypnotic language, of course. That's the thing that I can, it's something I can do. It's something I'm good at. I'm using that with the intention to, you can look at the title really. Sorry for being back and forth. I'm not used to serving my content and telling people where to find me. But you can find my content there. It's, letting go of anxiety. It's not trauma work, but it is deep work. I would like to think and say that my meditations, they go deep. It's not surface work, even though it's guided and it's not a personal session, but I do think it feels personal because my intention of helping is strong. So, and just the techniques used as well. So yeah, guided meditations, everything is spiritual connection to, even going into your ancestral baggage and life, cutting bonds and energetic cords to all of this. So there's different types of meditations that I do. It's really healing work. So it's, when you listen to those, you do inner work. Yeah. And affirmations. I do use a lot of affirmations, and it's not like, today I'm feeling happy. I am abundant and successful. I would like to think that my affirmations go deeper, and they're made to penetrate through and into you, heart, mind, soul, not in a forceful way, but just in a, it's a force for good, to say it in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
So yeah, I think that's it. I am on Insight Timer. I do have a course as well on setting boundaries, which is what I'm basing my book on as well. So yeah, the book will probably be available in a couple of months. I think around summertime. Let's see. There's something about when you do things like creating content, especially when it's like a course or a book. It's like I'm probably on the fringe of being a perfectionist when it comes to creating content. So I'm adding things. But I really shouldn't add more because it's already 340 pages. So it's probably enough. So hopefully...
You are enough, Kenneth.
I am enough. Thank you.
I love it. So yeah, amazing stuff. Do check out this man and follow his work. Those links will be down in the description below. So very easy to find everything there. But I think this has been a very powerful and incredible segment. It's been an honor and pleasure to collaborate with you here today, Kenneth, and perhaps we can do another episode in the future. But hopefully everyone enjoyed this. Again, if you did, please just at least hit the like button below. What did you think of this? Let us know in the comments below, or share some experience you may have had with healing trauma or working with hypnosis. And that's going to wrap us up for today. So thank you so much for listening. Much love to all of you. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with us here today. and we'll see you in the next episode. But until next time, be empowered, inspired, and encouraged.
Yes.